So next, we're going to hear from Andrew Goldring. He's the Chief Executive of the Permaculture Association, and he's going to speak to us about emergent dynamic governance ecosystems.
Good afternoon. Millions of people are working for transformative change, and we need a new approach to governance that can give them more voice and agency. Citizen action, especially when supported by local government, social business and research, can be an effective mechanism for local and global risks. But collaboration is hard, and we need to make it much easier. I propose a coalition of the willing, led by civil society, enabled by new technology and participatory approaches that can transform our world by learning to be brilliant at governance. My design brings together proven social and technological approaches into a framework that I call Emergent Dynamic Governance Ecosystems, or EDGEs. EDGEs are new assemblies of existing organizations and networks, led by civil society, open to any of the four sectors, and open to anyone with proven commitment to social and environmental well-being. EDGEs function through the conscious design of 8 mechanisms, and each of them have been chosen as a vital component in participatory governance. EDGEs can operate from local to global scales and in a variety of different themes. And indeed, there are many emerging examples. EDGEs use these 8 mechanisms to do 4 things. They agree their goals. Where do we need to go? They encourage and support the things that we need to do to get there, and they discourage the things that are preventing us from getting there, and then they measure progress so that we can adjust course. So what's different from a normal government system? Well, here, citizen change makers are at the heart of the process. Cross-sector alliances working together on the topics and risks that are important to them in a process for change. So how are we going to make it happen? The EDGE project is taken forward through an action research initiative conducted over 3 5-year phases. 8 continental teams, 1 international team, and a coordination team work together with EDGE champions in civil society and research institutes to create a global community of inquiry. And that global community identifies and tests the most promising approaches in each of those 8 mechanisms that are culturally and climatically appropriate in different places. It identifies places where civil society and local government have been able to work effectively together. It supports organizations and networks working along similar lines and helps new EDGEs to form. The team uses sociocratic decision-making processes, and the process overall is designed to enable tens of thousands of people to be involved and for a new shape of global governance to emerge through their process of learning. So, how do EDGEs solve global risks? Firstly, they involve more people. We're in an emergency. It's all hands on deck. We need everyone to be involved in the solution. We need to do this at multiple scales because the problem isn't a problem, it's many problems with many different facets. International EDGEs work on international scales, but some of it, much of it, needs to be developed, implemented locally. EDGEs bring together solutions toolkits that are climatically and culturally appropriate. What works in Mumbai won't work in Bradford. We need things that work for the people in the situations that they're in. And indeed, we need the things that are going to work because they are proposing them. And we use soft power. a very robust form of soft power, which combines the use of social media, public opinion, and formal and informal processes, such as with the United Nations, to change the environment and create a much more positive space where the right decisions can be made. And we do this within a learning process. We get better at change making and support new change makers to emerge. I believe that we have everything we need to tackle the huge risks that we face. Edges are about bringing that together and making it something that we can really do together. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. And now to the jury.
Andrew, so you come from the permaculture world, whose philosophy, I think, is working with rather than against nature. And I want to know a little bit more about how your EDGE project is influenced by this philosophy and whether you have any plans to involve other permaculture associations to join you in this collaborative effort.
Okay, sure. So, yeah, work with nature, not against, is one of the permaculture principles. And I see this as a kind of, this is like an observed phenomenon. These are changes, real changes I can see happening in organizations around the world. So how do we work with those changes and accelerate them through learning? In terms of how we involve other permaculture associations, it needs to go way beyond that. I'm involved in an organization called Ecolease, which brings together permaculture, global eco-village networks, and transition towns initiatives, as well as many other sustainable, community-led sustainability initiatives. And we're bringing in researchers, and we're working with the European Union to change policy. It's an emerging dynamic governance ecosystem that's starting to form. And I see this as being something which I think will happen in many different places, not just in permaculture. I've come from that as my professional framework, but it's through that work that I've seen this emerging change in the way that organizations work.
Hmm?
Congratulations for your presentation. I think the orgware that you are presenting is something to be applied to face up global crisis. This is how it was presented. So what I will ask you is to apply to one of two major issues, or migration or unemployment. And having said that, I want to commend the process, because I feel that when we will get to the value issue, maybe your argument still doesn't include this topic, but the other finalists have been approaching this issue. So I'm sure that in the next 2 days, among the finalists, some collaboration can evolve and help to shape up those proposals. But the question is, briefly, how this orgware can help us in issues like the two that I just mentioned.
So migration
or unemployment.
Migration or unemployment. Okay, fine. So I would say, so from my permaculture background, I know of brilliant examples where places have been transformed through the application of kind of ecological thinking and practical ecological building, agroecological work with farmers to improve their livelihoods. If we can amplify that work, then less people want to leave home. Why do people leave? Because it's not working. It's not because they don't like where they live. So we need to make where we live work. And I'm absolutely convinced, through research, through papers I can show you, that an ecological approach works. And so for me, how we spread those solutions, how we do that capacity building to enable people in many different places around the world to access the best technology and approaches it is key, which is why there's a big focus on the solutions toolkits. And it's also why the use and value diversity principle is so important. What works in one place doesn't work in another, and we have to be responsive to those changes. There are some simple solutions, but the world's a complex place, and we need to be able to deal with that complexity too. And to deal with that complexity, we need to be able to get local, city-level, bioregional organizing working effectively, as well as international instruments. So yes, my approach is not the whole approach. I can see brilliantly how it could combine with many of the other entries, and I look forward to doing so in the next few days.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.